Hello and welcome back to Underlab. Well, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned mostly everything that's actually in Undertale at least once by now. However, did you know that the game's files are full of unused features and content that were originally planned to be somewhere within the game, though never made it in? There's all sorts, from unused songs to cut sprites and even entire battles that don't appear in the game. I thought it might be fun to take a very detailed look at some of these and perhaps suggest why they might have been cut. I've heard that the official art book sheds light on some of the cut content, though unfortunately I don't own it, so feel free to add any additional insight in the comments. Oh, and if you're wondering where Gaster is, well, I uploaded a video dedicated to him that's 14 minutes long just a few days ago, and it's somewhat debatable whether Gaster ever really was cut content. Be sure to check it out though if it's Gaster you're after. Firstly, a look at the enemies that were cut. This is Dogue. That's right, dog with an E, no doubt named after the popular internet meme. You know, the one about the Shiba dog, not Gabe the barking dog. They appear to be a member of the Snowden canine unit, and according to Toby are apparently based off a basset hound. They appear to be carrying a spear like Undyne, which makes them the only guard dog to use the same weapon as their captain. They only have 2 attacks, and they're both very basic. In one, the annoying dog chases you before leaping into the air. In the other, 2 spears slide across the screen, one white and one blue. I think it's pretty obvious why Dogue was removed. They likely had their characteristics merged into different characters, like Doggo who inherited the spear attack, though swapped the spears for swords. With other dogs doing the same job as Dogue, there's likely no reason to keep them in the game. There's also the fact that Toby quite possibly didn't want the real life connection to the meme, which could somewhat ruin Undertale's immersion. Next up we have Royal Guards 3 and 4. Like 1 and 2, they're clearly monsters in some extremely tough looking armour. Guard 3 appears to be some sort of humanoid insect, while Guard 4 is clearly a cat of some description. They attack with falling lines and crosses that move horizontally. The pacifist goal of the fight appears to be to get Guard 3's glove to come off. After managing this, the two identify each other's friendship bracelets, and make up after some childhood drama that we the player never saw. Once again, it isn't too difficult to work out why Toby Fox removed this fight. It's pretty much the same battle that takes place with Royal Guards 1 and 2, and Toby likely thought players would find it repetitive to experience a fight so similar. Presumably any good ideas from this fight made their way into the battle with Royal Guards 1 and 2. Several items exist within the game's database that never made it into the game. I'll go through them now and their descriptions and give my speculations afterwards. Croquet roll is made with fried dough, traditionally served with a mallet. Rock candy heals 1 HP. A recipe to make it at home involves 1 finding a rock, and that's all there is to it apparently. Pumpkin rings are small pumpkins cooked like onion rings. Even when eating a stoic onion raw, the tears just won't come. If ghost fruit is eaten, it will never pass onto the other side. And finally, puppy dough ice cream is made by young puppies. I have a hunch that the croquet roll was replaced with the cinnamon bun. They're very similar items, though Toby likely thought the croquet roll was a bit too quirky even for Undertale. Rock candy seems like it was likely going to be a part of the hard mode, that may or may not one day be patched in. As for the last few items, I don't have anything too interesting to say about them, though it's likely that the ghost fruit has something to do with Napster Blook and the various other ghosts within the game, and puppy dough ice cream was no doubt planned to have something to do with the canine unit. Perhaps it was an item the player received upon killing or sparing Dogue. It's debatable what exactly cut content is. This video is about content that was going to have a place in the game, but Toby decided to remove it for whatever reason. Therefore, I'm not going to go into too much detail about files such as ABC123A. If you didn't know, it's a music file informing data miners to stop what they're doing and to not reveal what they find to the public, as nowadays it's impossible to hide secrets in games. I wouldn't really call this cut content, as it's just there as a warning to data miners, and the various rooms used for testing purposes also likely were never intended to appear within the game, so it'd be a stretch to call that cut content. One hidden room that does appear to feature truly cut content however is room 304. In the middle of the room is a sprite that resembles the gingerbread man from Metaton Resort. If you talk to them they'll tell you how they want to see the outside. Not the surface, but just the room next to them. Apparently their mycelium keeps them trapped where they are, so presumably this character was going to be some sort of mushroom monster. They were likely replaced with the character known as Regal from Temmie Village. A music file within the Undertale demo is labelled Grandpa Semi. It's speculated that Semi was likely to be the grandfather of Papyrus and Sans, as the name Semi is likely taken from the font name Semi-Serif. This has led to many fans figuring that they were cut for Gaster, and is part of why there's such a strong belief that Gaster is in some way related to Papyrus and Sans. The music file just sounds like the first few beats of Metal Crusher, so it isn't terribly interesting without the name. This little robot appears within the game's files, but never actually in-game. They have 98 written on their chest, which may be a reference of some sort to Windows 98. It's quite likely that this character was a precursor to Metaton, and they were replaced with the improved design that Toby ended up using. There were quite a few songs cut from Undertale that may give us some clue as to entire ideas that were scrapped from the game. One is called King Description, which sounds like a regal version of Determination, the theme that plays after dying. Considering the name and how the song sounds, it was almost definitely going to be used for something relating to Asgore. My guess is that it was originally meant to be played when traversing the corridors of his home and learning the history of the king and monster kind. Two songs, Dance of Dog and Sigh of Dog, might play if the player's save is somehow invalid. This is essentially the error room the game defaults to if you've been messing around with the game files, but not in a particularly constructive way. While I wouldn't class this as cut content, it's worth noting that they're both mostly developed songs that you won't be hearing on the Undertale original soundtrack anytime soon. A track called Star was meant to play when fighting the monster Magic. However, it was apparently cut because this created issues with the background music. Interestingly, it sounds very similar to something out of Star Fox. There's been a question circulating around the legality of using sound fonts, which I'm not going to go into here. But another reason for its removal may have been that Toby didn't want to infringe on anyone's copyright. Another track called Ruins Piano is a variation on the original song Ruins, played on a piano. While this track in its entirety is not used in-game, if I'm not mistaken, a version of it appears in the track called An Ending. I imagine this was likely an experiment for what became an ending. Recently, Toby released a whole batch of songs that were going to appear in the game at one time, but he eventually decided to cut them. One of these is a variation of the theme used for Alphys. However, he cut it for the new version because it sounded too much like it was from another game. All of these songs are mostly complete and have interesting little stories behind them. Early on, Toby attempted to make a theme for Undyne before her personality had been developed. The song he made sounds similar to the one he eventually used, but with some very obvious differences. He decided it wasn't good enough as it didn't remind players of being heroically punched in the face enough, which is of course a very important characteristic of Undyne's. A mysterious song called Doghole doesn't have anything written about it other than its name. My guess, judging by the name, is that Toby wrote it to be used in the secret snowed-in room where the player finds the annoying dog sleeping. That or he has some more content involving dogs planned, which he ended up scrapping. A song called Dogtroid was intended to play if you beat the game fast enough, and the player would be treated to the sight of the annoying dog in a bikini, a reference to Metroid. For whatever reason, Toby Fox removed this idea and the song from the game. Maybe the thought of a dog in a bikini is just a little too horrifying for our minds to comprehend. Toby once made a version of the song Undertale, the same song that's heard in the introduction of most of my videos. That sounds completely different. He was inspired to change it to the version we hear in-game, after watching the anime Redline, which is about races with crazy hairdos racing on an alien planet, and is available for free on YouTube. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it before. Anyhow, he thought the first version he made was too melancholy, though in my opinion it's still really good. One last song that was cut and is related to Undertale was called Patient. This was because it was inspired by the song Doctor from the webcomic Homestuck. Now technically this is something that was cut from Homestuck, not from Undertale. However, if you listen to it, it very obviously evolved into the infamous Undertale track called Another Medium. Finally, what must surely be the most grievous victim of Undertale's cut content is Papyrus's fedora. According to ancient sketches that Toby made however many years ago, he originally planned for the skeleton to wear a hat. Rest in peace, Indiana Bones. Well, that's enough cut content for now. I think some of the songs Toby cut from the game are truly memorable, and I hope even if he doesn't plan on making any more games anytime soon, Toby keeps on making music. Is there anything in particular you wish was kept in the game, rather than being cut? Let me know in the comments. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and a special shout out to Quen's little brother. Please tell him to stop keeping me up at night with his hooting.